Welcome to the Spark It podcast with Patrick CJ and Kimaru Baby. Today we're going to be diving into a topic that is very interesting and that we might all have encountered in one point or the other. The one decision that changes everything. Kimaru Baby, really good to have you on the show and to dive into this topic with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited actually to be here and I can't wait to see, what to we unveil from this discussion. Yeah, but it's exciting.
That is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually had an interesting question that I just wanted to ask you before we get into the real discussion.
Okay.
When was the last time you laughed so hard you cried? What
Hmm.
happened?
Oh my God. I think that's a hard one. It's so hard to remember. I don't know. Actually, oh my God. Honestly, I think that one would require me to dig deeper. Where am I finding that? Could you ask me another one? Oh my God. No. But if I don't know. Honestly, I can't remember. But if that has happened recently, it must have been the last time we were home with my family.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
my sister had brought us her husband.
Hmm.
They had come to they had come to visit our home, I think, and people were having fun. There's this poem they usually initially when they were
Yeah,
teenagers, they used to be invited at weddings, and then
yeah,
they would go recite those the poem to the bride and the groom. So that
yeah,
day, my other siblings decided that they are gonna, you know, do that poem. I think I actually have the recording in my phone. It was
yeah.
hilarious. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, they should not kill me for telling this here. I hope they don't. But it was fun. It was fun. It was fun to witness it. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, what was particularly fun about this poem? Why did it make you laugh so hard?
The poem, the way it is, it's like there's a way they say God created Adam and Eve, and
Yeah,
he made Adam to fall asleep so that he could take a rib and do
right.
this. So, if you're doing this poem for people in a wedding or something, usually
Yeah.
insert like the names of the person. So at this point, they
Oh,
would insert the name of the guy there, and
yeah.
then they'll be like, "Oh, God made X and so sleep." And then he took his rib, and then they made my sister. It was so funny. Yeah. It was hilarious to
That's
see it happen
interesting.
after so long.
Right, right. Were you the
Hmm.
one that performed it?
No. It was my brother. I couldn't remember like the words of the whole poem, so I was there taking the videos for them for memory's sake. So if they want the
Right.
videos, they should look for me.
Wow, that's interesting. Wait,
Yeah.
that actually reminds me,
Mm-hmm.
you are a poet,
Mm-hmm.
and your brother is a poet too?
I think the whole family.
Really?
Oh yeah, growing up, that was like the one thing that brought us together. We did a lot of poetry at church, at school, and also a lot of drama. We were involved in stuff like that. So I think almost all of us participated at some point. Yeah, if you are not part of
Oh,
like a role in a drama, whatever, you are doing a solo verse or something like that, or you are doing like a cultural folk song and you are the lead. That is
right.
like sort of what my family has looked like actually since we were kids. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
So, I remember one time I was having a chat with you,
Mhm.
and one of the things you said was, you guys used to sing at church. You you used to compose some songs and then you guys sing at
I
church.
know, yeah. We were like very active actually. Yeah, we were the kids at church. If you missed church, the Sunday school teacher will be like, "All right, where are these children?" Yeah, we were very outgoing actually. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting though. I think for me it's the first time that
Mm-hmm.
I am coming across a family that all of them are poets.
A good number. We're many, but at least not everyone, but a good number. It's like the talent is there. So I would say probably close to five of us. So yeah, that's a really big number, honestly. Is it even five or six? Six of us.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
all in the same family.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I've only seen that with music, like like the it's called the Mayanja family in
Mm-hmm.
Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mayanja family is where Jose Chameleon comes from.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Palazzo comes from
Mm-hmm.
Weezer, if you know
Mm-hmm.
Radio
Mm.
and Weezer.
Radio, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of those guys come from that same family. I think they have also other late brothers
Oh
that also
wow.
come from the same family. All of them are
Interesting.
musicians.
Okay, okay, okay. I see. Hmm.
And they are really doing well musically, like all of them.
That's nice. The talent is there. Just needs to be nurtured.
Yeah, yeah. But I think
Uh-huh.
for poetry, your
Mm-hmm.
family is the first I know
Mm-hmm.
that has that many people from one family who are all poets.
Yeah, we enjoyed that's something we really enjoyed doing when we were growing up. Yeah, it was a good thing.
Wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. Amazing. So now back to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just wanted to have a chat with you
Mm-hmm.
about a decision that you took or
Mm-hmm.
made uh, that significantly changed the course of your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people I've spoken to,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them that I've spoken to say one decision has led them to literally where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are like, when I was taking that decision, it really seemed tough and hard. But right now that I look back,
Mm-hmm.
it is the most rewarding thing I've done. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, for you, what is that? And I thought I could maybe start this conversation by
Uh-huh.
getting to maybe understand what was your early life like. Like, could you tell us a little bit about your life living in
Mm-hmm.
Nakuru? I mean, before you moved to Nakuru, there was this place, I think called Kirit,
Kericho?
Kirit, yeah, where
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
where you were living.
Yeah, as far as I
Like,
can uh-huh.
uh-huh,
As far as I can remember, Kericho it was nice. It was actually we used to live in a village and it was
yeah,
super nice. You would
yeah,
wake up and you're just there, you're a child having the best days of your life. My dad used to be the one making us breakfast because my mom never used to eat eggs and my dad wanted us to have eggs every morning. So he used to
yeah,
be the one making us breakfast. Actually, I would say it was really a very nice childhood. And then I remember he used to go to the farm, he would
yeah,
come home where he used to wear like this very long coat that had like very deep pockets and he used to enjoy picking fruits for us, so he would
yeah.
come home and me and my sister Kimzi would be digging deep into his pockets. We are like, yeah, we want the passion fruits and stuff like and stuff like that. So as far as I remember it, it was a nice childhood, like a really normal childhood where you are just living the best of your life, going to school in a quite a far off distance. And I
Yeah,
remember those days people used to go to school. How I don't know why they used to come back home to have lunch.
right,
Kids
right.
used to love it. You go home and it's a long walk to your
Yeah,
home. Yeah, you go home, have lunch, and then you go back to school. It
yeah,
was crazy. Yeah, but it was a normal childhood
yeah.
full of laughter and love and and good vibes. That was it,
Mm-hmm,
honestly. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
and games.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was good.
You said you guys you used to walk 4 kilometers or 4 miles
I
from
think
home to
it
school.
is. I know. I think it used to be like around that. I remember it was somewhere. It was like down almost like a hilly place. Yeah, it
Right.
would have been around either 3 to 4 kilometers. Honestly. Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I remember one time we are having a chat with you about this,
Mhm.
and you said you were making dolls and
Uh-huh.
and very many other art forms as
Mhm,
a
mhm.
child.
I know. I think for me, I've always been like a very creative person, honestly. This is not something that started
Mm,
when I was an adult. As a child, my mom used to do a lot of crochet. So I would actually borrow yarn from her. Sometimes she would give me like old sweaters, and then I
mhm,
would undo them, and I'll get the yarn, and I'm there, I'm
mhm,
making my crochet items. So I used to actually make dolls for myself,
mhm.
and I'll be there. I learned how to crochet and to sew as a child. So
Yeah,
I'd be like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm making sure like this doll has hair. The hair would be yarn. So
right.
I'll use clothes to make the dolls, and then I'll use yarn to make the hair. It used to
Mhm,
be super interesting, honestly. And then there is also this other thing we used to do. We would pick either sometimes we would use things like beans or maize, or we would pick
yeah,
some seeds from some tree, and then you'll
yeah.
make bean bags. I don't know whether you know that there was something you would sew like a small thing, and then you'll put the seeds in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
I
then
think I
it
do.
becomes like something you play with. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was really nice.
that's interesting. I mean, I also know that like beadworking and crocheting and other stuff are
Mm-hmm.
part of the programs that you implement. I think under Latitude Zero.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, it ended up being like some of those things that I learned when I was a child. You see the way people learn skills and you're like, I don't know where I'll use them. Clearly,
Yeah.
it's something as an adult I have used the same skills I've taught people. I've made money from it. I've sold
Mm,
items. I've mentored people. So it's been fun. It's been a good ride. Nothing has gone to waste.
wow, that's really nice. How
Yeah.
many people have you mentored and supported so far?
Directly should be the project I was running in Kakamega
Hmm.
and another one I did in West Pokot should be around 300 people. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been nice.
No, that's good. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. So actually, now now that you've said that, it kind of reminded me
Mm-hmm.
of the three what are those? You have these really nice crochet materials behind you, like on the background.
Those two
Like,
things?
yeah, like, did you work on those yourself?
No, I didn't make those ones, but I can make those ones. Actually, those ones are, it's sort of like there's this traditional basket that is made by Kikuyu women. It's called a kiondo.
Yeah,
That's the base of a kiondo. My mom taught me how to make a kiondo as a child. I can make that and even make it to be like a kiondo, but I was lazy, so I did. I bought those ones. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing them today. Yeah, but I do know how to make that from scratch anyway. So,
that's nice.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, that's so nice. Well, I mean, you clearly did have a very happy childhood with amazing memories from living in Kericho.
mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to move to Nakuru? Like,
Ah,
what was
uh-huh.
the pivotal moment or maybe event that pushed you guys to move?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I would say for us it was. it wasn't necessarily a decision that came easy, and it was also not a decision I made myself.
Yeah.
uh it was a decision that came from like a series of events,
Yeah.
unfortunate events for that matter. Yeah. I know this story. It's like it has not been wanting me to tell it. Sounds very bad. Anyway, that's like honestly, yeah. So, for the reason why we moved from Kericho was
Mm-hmm.
because of ethnic clashes that happened in 2001. Uh, and at this point, a neighbor of ours had actually been murdered. Yeah. So the way I remember it, it was on a Saturday. We're supposed to open school on a Monday for
Mm-hmm.
second term of the year. Yeah. So we were home with my sister cooking dinner, my older sister,
Mm-hmm.
because then I was still a child anyway. Yeah, yeah. So where we used to stay, we never used to have fences around our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, I remember we had footsteps. Like somebody
Mm-hmm.
was running just close to our house. And my sister was like, "Could you go and check that out?" So I go
Mm-hmm.
out and I check. I only see a man disappear. Somebody
Yeah.
is just, they ran past our home. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I just saw a guy, and our life continues. So we go back to
Mm-hmm.
our cooking, we have our dinner, we go to sleep. And then the next morning, I remember by 6 a.m., I had people talk, like, the way you could hear, like, there's a crowd gathered close to
Yeah.
your place. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what happened. So you are like, what's up? I wake up, I check in our home, my mom, my
Mm-hmm.
parents, they're not there. No one is there. It's just as the kids who are sleeping who are in the house. Everybody had left. So I go outside, and then from where I'm standing, I could clearly see like around 200 to 300 meters from our home was our neighbor's
Yeah.
house. So there
Yeah.
was like this huge crowd over there, and then you're wondering, oh, so what's up? And since the parents are not there to stop you from going there, and you're
Yeah.
a small child who is very curious, and you can go there. So I go
Yeah.
there, and you try to find out what's up, and you can't make your way through the crowd. But eventually, you do hear that the neighbor is dead. Yeah, that's why people are there. And then now the question is, what happened to him? Because clearly this person did not commit suicide. This person was not sick. There is
Mm-hmm.
clear indication that this person was actually murdered. Yeah. So, and that's from there, that's where like the everything changes. Yeah, because the rest of the day is now the chief comes,
Mm-hmm.
there's meetings. The question is, oh, who killed our neighbor, what happened to him? And clearly no one has the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think around midday, there's this story flying around that the person who murdered this person
Mm-hmm.
has been found, and they're in a totally different area, or maybe let's call it another village. They're in a totally different village, kilometers away from our place. They are at
Mm-hmm.
a police station. They've been arrested. Yeah. So at this point, the question is, who is it? And people are curious. They want to know. We just at this point we just know there's a man who is at the
Yeah.
police station, and he's a suspect. So,
Mm-hmm.
living in the Rift Valley, for Kenya has a lot of communities, honestly,
Yeah.
and predominantly over the years, there's been like if you come to Central,
Mm-hmm.
you'd find like the Kikuyu community has predominantly been from Central. If you go
Mm-hmm.
to Nyanza, you'll find the Luo community, stuff like that. And if
Yeah.
you go to the Rift Valley, there is the Kalenjin community. Yeah, so for most Kikuyus who probably live in the Rift Valley, it's
Yeah.
because of the displacement after what happened during the colonial times.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, they like maybe lost their land, people relocated, and yeah, so people kind of sort of migrated, and then now there's now different tribes living different places, in as much as there's still predominantly those specific tribes that live there. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what how my grandmother, they found themselves there, and then again my parents. Yeah, and that's how I would say we settled down in the Rift Valley. Yeah, but
Right.
we are from Central Kenya. Yeah. So So the person, my neighbor, was
Yeah.
from this community that now lives in the Rift Valley anyway, and
Mm-hmm.
then they are like, "Hey, we want to know, we want answers." And at this point, they decide that they are going to go to the police station to
Right.
find out and figure it out. Yeah, so we lived close to the road, and they take matatus and buses, and they go there, like a very
Yeah.
big crowd of people, and they are angry and it's bad. So they go to the police station and they demand to be given this man. At this point, what they want is to do like what we call mob justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just want to avenge their dead. It's
Mm-hmm.
like no
Mm-hmm.
one really cares about the why. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
bring that man to us. We will know what to do with him. But of
Yeah.
course, if a policeman has arrested you and you're in their custody, they will probably not give you away. There's no way they can hand over somebody to an angry mob for them to
Mm-hmm.
do whatever they want with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the police, of course, could not hand over the guy to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're now even angrier. They were angry, yes. Now it's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So they board their buses and their matatus, and they're coming back now, even
Mm-hmm.
way angrier. They're like, "There's no way. How come this guy died and no
Mm-hmm.
neighbor had him cry for help? Like what really happened?" Yeah, so
Yeah.
they come back, they're so angry and whatever. And at this point, because of what had happened during the day, like the whole meeting and the way
Yeah.
there was just some sort of, you could feel like something bad is going to happen. There was no peace at this point. Yeah, so by the time they are coming back, people are in a state of, you feel like you are in flight mode. Yeah, so, and as far as my mom is concerned, she keeps saying, for her, for example, she's experienced ethnic clashes in, I think, in 1997,
Yeah.
1992, and stuff like that. So these are things they had already seen despite living there for so many years. It had
Mm-hmm.
happened to them in the past. So they could already feel like something bad is gonna happen because the anger in these people is just out there. Yeah, and all that. So by the time they get to our place, because we live
Mm-hmm.
close to the road, and then this particular community, they have a sort of a, I don't know whether to call it like a war cry or scream or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time they are lighting their buses and their matatus, that's
Yeah.
exactly what is happening. There's that,
Mm-hmm.
and if we have everybody knows that's what is happening, and
Yeah.
you've had it, and because you've
Yeah.
had it in the past, you can relate, and yeah, shit is going down. Yeah, so they decide, so they, when they get there, everybody is running. They're like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is going down, and for our own safety we scatter.
Right.
Yeah, so everybody sort of runs away, and at this point, our last ones, I think they were around 4 years. My older sisters, they carry them on their backs and off we go. So an eyewitness tells us, um, the one who like witnessed this thing alongside my father, he
Mm-hmm.
told us, I think he came to my home like 2 to 3 years ago, if I remember correctly. He came
Yeah.
home and he was telling my mom and my siblings, I wasn't there, he was telling
Yeah.
them the story. So according to him, for them, when these people arrive, my dad and him and the guy now, they go into our house. For him, I think he's left at the door. My dad
Yeah.
is in the house. I think he was going there to pick something. I clearly don't know what he was going to pick. But now by the
Yeah.
time he's getting out of the house, these guys are already there.
Mm-hmm.
And they start like throwing stones at them. My dad loses his consciousness. This guy falls down. There's a guy with a machete. He cuts like his hand almost, I
Oh
think,
my God.
yeah, he cuts his hand. His hand, it's almost like it's almost detached. This is a bad story, honestly. um it's just, yeah, disclaimers honestly to anyone listening. Yeah, so the dude now is there, he's bleeding. For him, what saves him from what is happening at that particular moment
Yeah.
is he pretends he's dead. Yeah, so what happens is these people who are so angry, this angry mob, and it's a lot of people, by the way, they now
Mm-hmm.
enter people's homes, they loot whatever they want, And then
Mhm.
after they loot, they set the houses on fire. Yeah. So for my father, after he had been stoned, he falls down, he's lost his consciousness. And
Yeah.
then by the time they've finished what they're doing in our home,
Yeah.
when they come out, I think he like moves or something. So they can clearly see, he's breathing.
Mhm.
So apparently they had made a pact that
Mhm.
they would kill five neighbors because why didn't you hear our man or our
Mhm.
neighbor asking for help? So they say they are gonna kill five neighbors.
Mhm.
And yeah, so my dad moves, and then these guys are like, yeah, he's alive. Yeah. So they go back into the house, they take a mattress,
Mhm.
they come and put the mattress over him. This guy can clearly see this is what is happening. But
Yeah.
for him he's really pretending he's dead. Kabisa. Yeah. So they put the mattress over him, and then they get they I think they had petrol or something. They pour it on him and they light him on fire.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's the end of him. That's how he dies. But at this point, we don't know. For us, it's like we took off, and I remember that night we slept on top of a hill. I think it was
Mhm.
a totally different village from our home, but from where
Mhm.
we were, because it was sort of a hilly place,
Mhm.
you could see the houses. The houses
Mhm.
were blazing. There's this poem I did when I was, I don't know, I think when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote this poem that sort of almost looked like the ordeal we had gone through. It
Yeah.
used to go like, fire, fire, houses are on fire. What caused it, we wonder. They came at night, we were too weak to wake up. They stole our belongings, something like that. It's a really very, yeah, it's a very emotional poem. And for me, I remember when this person wrote for me this poem, I recited it at church. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was at church. And I remember when I was practicing it, one of the teachers telling me, hey, you I think they already knew like the tragedy we had gone through. And they were
Yeah.
like, you should just use your personal experience to channel the emotion. And as a child,
Mhm.
as a child, I actually did that, but now looking back, maybe that was not the best approach. But anyway, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, so at this point, we are on a hill. We could see the houses are on fire. At that point, you can clearly see, yeah, it's gone.
Mhm.
Everything you owned, it's gone. It's totally
Right.
gone. Yeah, so they torch the whole village. And I remember that night on top of this hill, because we were in groups of people. You're just there, you're seated somewhere, you could see and experience everything that is happening. And then if
Mhm.
you had like movement somewhere, because I mean at this time point you're still, if you hear like movements somewhere,
Mhm. Mhm.
you would probably be like, maybe they have come for us. So because we are at the top of the hill, you start descending. And
Right.
I remember the next morning when dawn broke,
Mhm.
as we are getting out of this place, my feet hurt a lot. Apparently, I lost my shoes because at this point, you got to a place at some point the shoes were such a bother. So you remove shoes, you start descending that whatever thing without shoes. And I
Mhm.
remember correctly picking like 17 thorns from my feet.
Wow.
I know the next day it was like that's what you're doing in the morning because you cannot stand the pain. Yeah. And so after we get off this hill now, because at this point maybe probably the police are there,
Mhm.
we get out of the hill, we go, there's this lady who lived close to that hill, we knew them.
Yeah.
uh yeah, so we go to them, to their, I think we go to their house as we were passing by. And by then there's this guy who had actually come, and they're like, oh, by the way, I have bad news for you. And they're like, oh, unfortunately, your father is dead. And I remember as a child, I don't think even at this point I was feeling anything. It's like it's like the way you could be watching a movie, and that's it's like your life is a movie now. You just see it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you're not there. That's
Yeah.
exactly the feeling at this point. Yeah, so we go now. At this point, we just go home, or what was supposed to be our home.
Yeah.
And by the time we get there, my dad had not been moved. He had not been taken to the morgue. So somebody had been gracious enough and covered them with a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was just lying there. And then there's this crowd of people, and people are taking turns. They'll be like, they want to see. So they remove the blanket just a little bit to take a peek, and then they will return the blanket. So you're just there
Mm-hmm.
again. It feels like a movie that is being played as if it's not your reality. So you're just there. You're also looking. Every time he's opened, you see a little bit of him. Every time somebody moves that blanket, you see a bit of him. Yeah, that was it. And at this point now, uh so our relatives, they will
Mm-hmm.
definitely get the news and they decide to come.
Mm-hmm.
Funeral arrangements are made, and yeah, we bury my dad. And from there, it wasn't a discussion of you're going to live here or not. Clearly, you
Yeah.
don't have a home. You've lost your dad. You've lost everything that you had. So it's not a matter of I don't think it was even negotiable. We just
Mm-hmm.
our extended family and my mother, they made the decision for us to move to a place that would have been much safer for us.
Right.
So yeah, we are 9 in our family. So I remember there was a my brother who was actually in Form 4 at the time. He was left
Mm-hmm.
there to do his exams because he had already registered for his exams from there. So he was left there to live in a totally different village with some other long distance relatives of ours. And
Mm-hmm.
then my other older siblings, they we were just kind of sort of distributed. Oh, you and you, me and my brother went to live with my auntie. My other siblings went to live with my grandmother. It was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So at this point now, it's like there's this thing on TikTok. People, it's called the cut distribution system. I'm trying to make light of this
Okay.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when a cat finds you and then
Mm-hmm.
you adopt it.
Oh.
Yeah, the cut distribution system. Anyway, but that's just on a lighter note. Yeah, so
Okay.
anyway, we end up going to live with our relatives, and I end up living with my auntie. So at this point, we are enrolled into new schools, and at my auntie's, we spend now the second term and the third term. That was 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, another decision is made. There is a fundraiser, I think, at the end of that year, and they
Mm-hmm.
buy land for us in Nakuru.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we go back to living with my mother now, all of
Mm-hmm.
us. And again, we have to be enrolled to new schools again,
Yeah.
start a new life. Yeah, it was sort of, it's just up and down, up and down. Yeah,
Hmm.
in those 2 years, a lot happened, honestly.
You you really did go through um, an incredibly traumatic event and experience, you and your family. I can't possibly imagine what going through that looks like because I think it's really horrible.
Mm-hmm,
Like yeah, it's a traumatic, tragic event that leaves a lasting mark on someone's life.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, and I just can't imagine like what that was for you and your family. So at this point,
mm-hmm,
when this tragic incident happens,
mm-hmm.
you guys move to Nakuru, where they
Mhm,
got you a new uh, piece of land where you guys were now settled in.
mhm.
Um, what was the hardest part about starting over? Because you had to rebuild your lives afresh from scratch.
Mm. Oh, and I think before I even answer that, I think I've forgotten a very important detail of this story. So,
Right.
just to go back before I answer that,
Yeah.
just to go back to this story,
Mhm.
apparently the reason why my neighbor was murdered, he had three wives. They had issues
Mhm.
in the family, and then
Mhm.
one of their wives sent somebody to come and do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that this is stuff they found out later.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then also like another neighbor of ours also escaped death, you
Mhm.
know, just like these. Yeah,
Mhm.
he escaped death because he had been housed at
Yeah.
one of the friends' home. The friend had told him, "Oh, you can come and stay at my house. Everything will be fine. You know, we've been
Right.
friends all this time." And he trusted him and went to his home.
Yeah.
And that night, when everything is happening, the guy tells this man like, "Hey, I need to step out of the house for a few.
Mhm.
I'm coming back." And when he leaves, the wife tells this guy, "By the way, let me tell you the honest truth. This
Mhm.
guy has gone to call the mob on you, and you are one of the people who had been marked as
Mhm.
people among the five."
Mhm.
Yeah, among the five neighbors who did not come to the rescue of
Mhm.
of the dead guy. Yeah, so the wife tells him, "You know what? Even just leave through the window." So the guy left through the window, and he couldn't even go so far. By the time he's leaving, he could hear footsteps of people coming, and he decides to just climb a tree
Right.
that was at the border of their land. So he climbs
Mhm.
the tree. These guys come and they're like, "Oh, where's this dude?" Wife says, "Oh, he left when you left." And now they start looking for him and they
Mhm.
cannot find him. But what saved him was he was on top of that of a tree and they didn't bother to check. I guess at this point they didn't think he would have been on top of a tree. So that's how another neighbor escaped death.
From a friend.
Yes. I think sometimes, from what I have seen or what I know, even like in 2008, when there was 2008, when there was chaos in Kenya, sometimes when these things happen, when tribal clashes or tribal things happen, it's like at that point, people don't think about those days when you're just friends with people, when you're smiling, sharing a meal, or just your friends, you've been there for each other. At this point, it's like almost a seed of hate is planted. Or maybe that seed of hate has always been there and it just needed something to trigger it. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, so that's exactly what that looks like in those times.
It's a very dark incident.
Yeah, it is very it's it's actually weird. I think we need to do better.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So anyway, going back to you were asking me what like was the hardest thing that happened for us when you're trying to reset
Yeah.
and rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah.
First and foremost, I think at this point now, I think rebuilding for us was really hard
Mhm.
because, I mean, you are from this space or place where you had everything, and now it's no longer there. It doesn't exist. There's nothing. You can go back. You can't salvage anything. It's like time has wiped off all that. And now you
Mhm.
have to start from scratch. You have to, and then you don't have much. I remember at this point my mother got sick. She got
Yeah.
asthmatic, and for like 2 to 3 years she was bedridden. Literally, she couldn't do much. I remember we would go to school and then we would come back and find her. She had done very little in the house, or maybe had not even done anything because she's not okay completely. It was really that bad.
Mhm.
But for me, the most significant part also was the fact that I quit school. I quit school as a child. I was like, nah, I'm not going to that school, no. Because, okay, so what happened was, as
Yeah.
you're trying to start from scratch and all that, like I remember now, the other year when my dad passed on, we spent
Mhm.
now at our relatives' places.
Yeah.
And then now, So there's that time. Then we moved from there, and now we are living with our mother, so we have to go to new schools. Then we go to these new schools, and everyone is like, oh, we don't have a vacancy for the next class. If anything, all of you have to repeat the same class you are in the previous year. In my heart, I'm like, me repeat a class? Hey, you're taking me for granted. I was like, no, 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 no. I can't. I can't be in this class. Not again. Yeah.
Right.
So I refused to go to school. I think around close to 2 to 3 weeks. I was home. Everybody would go to school. They'll come back. No one, not even my mother, could convince me to go to school. I was there. I was just having fun I don't even know whether it was fun, but I was just at home helping around.
Right.
Yeah, so one of my uncle's friends came at some point, and then he was like, "Oh, hi, I hear you have refused to go to school. You know, school is such a good thing."
Yeah.
Yeah, so he goes on and on about, how age is just but a number. It's okay. Just go back to school. You will catch up. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. You're a brilliant child. Even if you will finish school later than any other person, but you'll be fine. Just go. And he said all these very affirming things. And I think by the end of that conversation, it took that man to convince me
Mm-hmm.
to go
Mm-hmm.
back to school. So by the end of that conversation, I was like, yeah, I think it's time. It's time to go to school. Yeah, so I did go back to school. But what happened was, from that point, I worked so hard because I was
Right.
really trying to prove myself. I was trying to prove to even myself that I'm better, I'm good enough, and I can do this. Yeah, so I was
Mm-hmm.
always, anyway, in primary school, I was always top of my class. There was no other way. Yeah, but on the other hand, rebuilding for us also, I would say it wasn't easy. Yeah, I would say it took a village. It took a village for us to rebuild, from the church community, our friends, our extended family, our neighbors. And at this point, we got a lot of help from people. Like, it was like, the way you just receive, it was like receiving, receiving, receiving. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
come, they give you,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's food, it's clothes, because you don't have
Mm-hmm.
these things. Yeah,
Right.
it's like you are there, you are receiving everything from people.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, as a child, there was a point it got to a place where you receive so much, and then there would be a few children who would make fun of you. um so there was a times you would feel bad, and you'll be like, how come we can't afford these, you get?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, there was that point. And then there was also the other point. You remind yourself, like, you are in this situation, you didn't necessarily choose to be in this situation, and it's life, so you gotta find the strength to keep moving. And
Right.
also at church, it's also happened at some point, there was some few kids, not all, few kids
Right.
who would wonder, how come these people can't even afford to give offering?
Oh my.
So that was kind of significant for me. So I remember, to survive this church thing, there's that offertory basket that passes around when you're giving offering. I tell people this story, we laugh. So the offering basket would pass. You don't have
Yeah.
even a shilling to put in.
Right.
So please, my siblings, don't kill me for telling this story. So when the offering bag would pass,
Yeah.
because it's sort of like an open one, there's this usually tiny ones that you can just slide something in, but these ones were like kinda, you could slide your hand in. So when they
Yeah.
pass there, because you want to have that, people, you want people to have the impression that you put something, so you hold your fist like this, and you like, you put your hand inside. Yeah, you put your hand inside, because you don't, and because I realized, for me it was a survival mechanism. After that,
Right.
no one would know whether I gave or I did not give.
Right.
So
Right.
there's no story. So yeah, so that's what used to happen. And I think also another thing, how I survived sort of my childhood was, You see how
Yeah.
brilliant I was at school.
Yeah.
I think also that kind of helped me survive because kids would come to me to ask questions. Oh, I don't understand this. Could you teach me this or whatever? Math, could you do this? Tell me why these nouns or pronouns are not working the way they're supposed, that kind of thing. I was like the go-to child. There was this kid, I think in class four,
Uh-huh.
five there. We used to call him Babu. Babu used to give me his, I don't know this thing whether it was called Bibo or Bimbo. There was just a small
Mm-hmm.
juice that had come whatever in a small pack. I
Yeah.
think it used to be 10 shillings, and his parent was he was in the military. So during the lunch hour, because our school was so close to the barracks, I think the
Mm-hmm.
dad would send somebody to bring him lunch, like hot lunch with
Yeah.
that juice. Hey, Dudu, give me that juice every day, every day, every day, just because I was teaching him math. So for me, I was living the good life because because I could show somebody, math.
Right.
I'll be like, yeah, please just come to me. I'll show you how it's done in exchange for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't remember negotiating for him to give me the juice. But I think he saw it fit to bribe me. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, rebuilding was both not easy.
Right.
It had its very downsides, and there was the good times, the bad times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also remember at some point, as young as we were, we had to also
Mm-hmm.
learn to do a lot for ourselves because my mom was not okay.
Right.
So we learned how to cook early enough. We learned how to do farm work because even at some
Mm-hmm.
point we used to like do farm work for people so that we could get paid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of taught us, the whole experience taught us to a lot of, just be independent. Yeah.
Right.
So we learned to do a lot of these things early on. When other kids are just there, they're having too much fun, as we were having too much some fun and also trying to balance it with those things that needed to be done at home
Right.
or somewhere else. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive. Yeah. Like you were a child, but you were doing so much. You you were only 11? Oh, how
Uh,
old were you at that point?
I was so old. Oh my god. You want people to start calculating my age. They're like, no. Next
It's
question,
fine.
please.
It's
No.
fine.
Yeah. Mm, 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 mm,
Oh, no. Okay, it's fine. All right. So something else I actually wanted to ask you about
mm.
is, so basically, from because you really had this a very tragic and traumatic experience that you and your family went through, and having to move to a new place,
Mhm,
uh, where you have to leave all your friends behind, um, place that you're very familiar with, that you used to call home, behind. But the most importantly, uh, your dad wasn't moving with you to this new place because of the horrible thing that happened. Um, and in this new place, you were able to make use of the resources and opportunities and communities and networks that were in this new place to basically help you adapt and
mhm,
adjust to living in Nakuru and something like that. For me, I'm wondering
mhm,
what is the most important lesson you've learned about yourself from this journey. Having to, like, going through what you went through to coming to Nakuru and making all those changes that you had to make to now who you've become today?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think for me, I would say I have
Yeah,
learned that I am resilient. Like going through something like that, it's crazy.
yeah,
It alters the way you think, the way you do things, the way it's like a whole mindset shift.
right.
Um, it kind of teaches you, like in life, there's gonna be good times, and then there's gonna be hard times, and all these times, most of the times, you don't anticipate for them. Like you can't anticipate for bad times. If we had anticipated, if we had known something like that would have happened, probably would have moved a long time ago. Yeah, you can never anticipate for these times. So it has shown me that even in the face of adversity, I have sort of gotten some strength. You get, like you become resilient, you have that strength to push on. I wouldn't want to definitely go through something like that again. But at this point, it has taught me that, you see, the way sometimes you feel like you've come to the end of the road and you feel
Mm-hmm,
like I can do this no more. I think at this point in my life, I feel like that was like one very defining moment and one very tough moment that at this point, I don't think anything will ever beat it. So
mm-hmm.
when sometimes I'm going through a rough patch, I remind myself I've seen worse and I have overcome, and things will be better. And if God was able to take me through or take us through that hard time to where we are right now, then it means at this point, I don't think He would not take me. If I'm going through like a crisis or something like that, I feel like He would still give me that strength to overcome. So that's sort of what like I have learned about myself in this instance. Yeah. I'm like, it's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Wow, powerful. That's definitely very powerful. And I think, honestly, I am one of the people that can attest that you are incredibly resilient and tough. Having had the chance to work with you,
I,
but
I
tough
try.
in a
Uh-huh.
good way.
I don't just want to be tough for the sake of being tough, honestly. But yeah, 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 I know. I don't know what to say, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
that so something important that you said,
Mhm.
about sometimes going through a rough patch and how you were able to overcome yours when you were going
Mhm.
through it together with your family. I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, for someone who is right now going through a rough patch in their lives, maybe they're afraid to make a decision or they're unsure about it and things like that. What
Mhm.
advice can you give to them in terms of uh, utilizing their social support system?
Mhm.
Things because you were able to utilize your social support system like the church,
Mhm.
like your
Mhm.
family, your friends, the community to help you in adapting when
Mm.
you moved to this new place. And I'm just wondering for someone who is going through a rough patch, what advice would you have for them regarding how they could utilize, for example, some of these resources
Okay.
to overcome it?
Mhm. I would say, a lot of times, especially you see, there's these people who are usually like the people who are tough in their circle. Maybe they're the ones always giving out help and stuff like that. So they don't really know how to ask for help. I think asking for help is not a sign of weakness or something to be ashamed of. In life, sometimes you go through either tragedies or, as I said, things you never plan for, and they hit you and they can hit you hard. The one thing that this story of ours taught me was it's okay to ask for help, and don't be ashamed of your situation, because I feel like, if for us, for example, if we didn't go to our community, whether it's the church or it's our neighbors or it's our family, whatever, if we had just been like, yeah, we are fine, we would have probably ended up on the streets, or if my mom would have been like, yeah, we will be okay, that's not true, we would have ended up somewhere so bad. But the fact that sometimes you acknowledge and you're like, yeah, I am in a bad space and I need help, and then you go to those people you are sure will help you, it's sort of like a sign of strength to ask for that help. So my advice is, if you're going through a rough time, don't be don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. At some point in our lives, we all need help. It doesn't matter what type of help. It could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be, or it could be all these things. So, whatever the type of help it is, ask for it from wherever you need it and whoever can give it to you. So, ask. Yeah, that's like the thing I would say.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really a very important advice. Yeah, because sometimes there are really resources that are available to help us, and when we don't seek for help,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we never really get it. Or there might be someone who knows some resources that might be of help to us, and we never get it because we never asked for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, interesting. And I wanted to also understand what your advice
Mm-hmm.
would be for someone who's going through a rough patch regarding utilizing therapy to help them in rebuilding their lives or overcoming the rough patch that they could be in at the moment. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I think there was this one time I had a conversation with you about this experience that you went through and everything. And I think one of the things I remember very vividly from that
Mm-hmm.
conversation I had with you was how you were able to utilize therapy to help you in healing from the experience, in rebuilding back and things like that.
Oh yeah, I think after we went through this tragedy as children or as a family, we didn't go for therapy. By the way, I think I remember when we were at my auntie's. My auntie was walking on eggshells around us. I think she didn't know how to handle us at this point. She'd be like, she was so nice, by the way. She'd be like, "Have you eaten? Are you full? Are you okay? I don't want you to say you've never been fed." So she was nice, but I think at this point, as far as something like therapy is concerned, at that point, because it is like 2001, therapy has just been normalized just the other day. And even right now, there's people who still don't talk about therapy, or we still need to demystify therapy for them. So we didn't necessarily like go through therapy and all that. And I think even as a person, some of the things I went through as a child, when I grew a lot older, probably when I was now in high school and in uni, is when you start to realize, but this thing was really bad. It was actually very tragic. Because as a child, I don't think even you had that whatever to process. Because as I told you, when we were seeing my father that morning, people are just there, they're opening, closing, opening the blanket and closing it. It doesn't hit you. So later in life is when it hits you. And I think for me at this point, I would talk to some friends of mine who had been to therapy. People would tell you, oh, this and that about therapy. And then eventually you're like, it sounds like a good idea. And then you start Googling more about therapy, what it entails, and all that. And you realize it's not necessarily the same with the way I could have a conversation with somebody and tell them, I'm feeling bad, I'm not okay, I've gone this
Mm,
very bad, whatever thing. Yeah, therapy is not, it's not necessarily as the same as you would tell a friend something like that. So I decided to go for therapy a while back. I was like, sometimes you just need to process some of these things. And when I went for therapy, is when you realize there's something very different about therapy. Like this, you'll talk to this professional, they'll tell you a few things, they'll listen more, and then they'll probably ask you questions, more questions. And then it's like you're in I call it a bubble. It's like you're in a bubble and you're feeling like you're trapped. And the more you talk to this person, the more they help you burst that bubble. They don't tell you how to burst the bubble, but they take you through a process where eventually you will find a way or figure a way to burst the bubble yourself. So for me, that's kind of what therapy sort of looked like talking about that experience and stuff like that. So eventually you start sort of healing from that experience. So if somebody is thinking about therapy right now, I'll probably encourage them to, sign up even if it's for a session. You don't have to sign up to like 20 sessions or whatever. It could be something experimental that you do. Like you sign up for a session, you go and find out, what it is about, talk to that person. Maybe by the time you are done with that one session, out of your own volition, you'll be feeling like, hey, I need to come for a second time, a third time, a fourth time, or whatever, however long it takes for you to go through that. So, if people are going, I would advise somebody who is going through a rough patch. If you like, first, there's people who don't even know how to talk about stuff like this. So, you can find your friends. If you don't want to go for therapy, start talking to somebody you trust. And eventually, if you get the courage to go for therapy, go even if it's just for that one session. But always find somebody to talk to about some of the things you go through, because you need to burst a bubble that might be holding you back, or might be, traumatizing you, and you could be able to deal with it if you got the right help.
Yeah, I think that's really super important, to be honest. Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
yeah, and I totally agree with you. Apart from just actively seeking out
mm-hmm,
for therapy when we need it, we definitely need to demystify like
mm-hmm,
the notions, the negative notions around the therapy. I think we have these negative notions surrounding therapy that,
mm-hmm,
especially back home, like
mm-hmm,
that see therapy as like a bad thing. Like, when
mm-hmm,
you're accessing mental health support, that's like, you're maybe weak or some,
mm-hmm.
like, there are notions that basically seem to discourage someone from actively utilizing these
Yeah.
resources.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So yeah, it's definitely an important advice. So what would you have as a general, like most important advice for just someone who's going through a rough time, you know, as like the
Hmm.
most if you were to say like what if you are not to implement A and B and C, at
Uh-huh.
least do this one thing.
Uh-huh. I think for me, in my own personal experience, what I have found to be very useful is that tough times don't last forever. Sometimes it's just a phase. It is a phase you could be going through, and you need to know that it will not last forever. So just hold on for however long you need to, and have some hope. I think for me, I used to tell myself, even as a child, I used to be like, I know this thing will be over one day, we will be fine. And I really used to pray about it. Hey, I was a prayerful child. My mother can tell you, I was a very, very prayerful. I was a very prayerful child. Yeah, I used to know that. I think for me, what I held on to was the hope that that thing would fizzle out, like that phase. I used to work, even when I'm working hard at school, I'm like, you know what? This is not what my life will look like as an adult. We are going to overcome. I'm going to overcome. So for me, it's that part of tough times don't last forever, and whatever it is, like, have some hope. whatever hope you can hold on to, like that thing that can keep you going. Because for us, I think even for all of us in our family, I think all of us had that hope. There's something we were holding on to. For me specifically, it was the fact that I didn't think my adulthood would look like my childhood. I always used to have that hope that things will always get better, things will look up. Yeah, so I think those are like very key. It won't last forever, and have that thing that keeps you going, or that thing that you hold on to. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that uh, with us today. Well, so I think you your story is
Mm-hmm.
very powerful, um, and so are the lessons you've learned from the experience you've gone through. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that really um, what you've gone through to who you've become today really speaks so much about you as a person. But I
Uh-huh.
think it's an inspiration to us as young people because you 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 didn't let your past define you. Like you didn't let your past define your present, neither did you let it define your future, which it's incredible. Because I think some of us, if we go through such a tragic event, it
Mm-hmm.
can really, really be super, super difficult to come out of. Like the shadow that it casts on you and your life and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that now you are an advocate for women and girls and youth, and you are also running organizations, two organizations, and you're also running uh, a YouTube channel where you're training people on do it yourself skills and things like that. I think it's really like, super exemplary.
Thank you. I try to keep busy. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you definitely have been busy.
Oh yeah. You have to try, by the way. It's really important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, but I think it's really powerful. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, what you've been able to do and what you continue to do, it's super inspiring. For someone who has gone a similar experience or is going through a similar phase, I think this
Mm-hmm.
is really something they can look up to and they see that, oh no, their situation actually is not completely like without hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is something they can do. They can get out of that situation. They can redefine their
Mm-hmm.
present and not let whatever they're going through now
Mm-hmm.
define the entire trajectory of what their life will look like at the
Mm.
moment and in the future. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's very powerful, I would say.
You're welcome. I needed to get that out of my chest.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but mhm.
yeah. So before we wrap up,
Mhm.
uh, I was wondering what is one spark of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners and viewers today?
Oh my God. I don't they should stay consistent with their hope. Like if you hope for something, stay consistent and work on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, honestly, I don't know. I might not be that wise. Yeah, but okay. If we are gonna go back to the same story I've given here, I'll just say like it's the hope that tomorrow will be better. Whatever it is that somebody is working on, they should be hopeful and keep working on it, and know that things will one day look up, even if today they don't look so great. So yeah. whatever it is, keep hoping, keep wishing, and keep praying also. Yeah, because it's that hope that keeps, I think, the human spirit alive and gets you through the most tragic things that you either encounter in life or you encounter in the future from now. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I stay consistent.
Yes, stay
That's
consistent with your hope.
yes, it's a very important one. And I will
Mm-hmm.
add that not only with your hope, stay consistent with whatever you're doing. If you are applying for scholarships, keep applying for them until you get that scholarship. If you're applying for a job, be consistent. Keep
Mm,
applying. Keep learning from the feedback you get and keep applying for that job until you get that job. If it's an internship, do the same. If it's a relationship you're working on, keep working on it until things get better.
I
The
agree.
point is that whatever it is, stay consistent.
Consistency is key.
Keep moving. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
were like, consistency is what?
Is key.
You've heard from her. Consistency is the key. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, stay consistent. Well, thank you very much, Kimaru baby, for sharing that with us. It's been very nice learning about your story and how you were able to rebuild from your experience to who you are today. You are an inspiration to all of us. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Keep doing what you're doing and keep inspiring more lives.
I'll try. Yeah, it's nice. Thank you for asking the questions and for allowing me to share this story with our listeners and our viewers. It's been, I hope they pick a few things from my
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
yeah. Well, listeners and viewers, if this episode sparked something in you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share
Mm-hmm.
it with someone who needs to hear or needs a little inspiration. See you next time on the Spark It podcast with me, Patrick CJ, and Kimaru Baby.
Bye bye.
Bye.